All right, we are excited to be joined by Frank Saravalli down live at the Board of Governors meeting in Florida. And Frank, we're so jealous of you always being by the beach. We figured we would dress appropriately for this one.
I love it. What is there a Winter Classic outdoor game that you're dressing up for? Look, it was so hot today. I had to come in and do it inside. No one needs to see me on camera sweating.
Fair enough. Let's jump right into it. It is icebreakers delivered by our friends at DoorDash, Frank. And our first question we got here, a lot of talk heading into the week about LTIR and what could be potentially happening there. What's your update and what sort of ended up happening at the meeting?
Yeah, so I think there was some frank discussion on Tuesday at the GM meetings, and I think there was a lot of back and forth between the league and the general managers. And the response from Gary Bettman today was, look, this is a system that's been in place for 17 years. This has not popped up often. And more to the point, we don't feel like this is something that's being abused. He said the overwhelming response was that the general managers agreed with that sentiment. In speaking with some of them privately, I'm not necessarily sure that that's exactly the case, because I think there is concern that, this is a copycat league. You've seen a number of teams now be in this spot. And he was actually asked, Gary Bettman specifically, about the Vegas Golden Knights and how they've managed their LTIR situation to this point. And the response was, we don't see any issues at the moment. And that is the case. There have not been any rules broken. There has not been anything attempted to suggest that there may be rules broken. So the takeaway here is that the league discussed it, the general managers voiced their opinion, and it's not as simple a fix, because the salary cap is more complicated than that, to just say, hey, we're putting in place a system for the playoffs where you need to be under this cap number with the roster that you're icing. That's not exactly how it works. And I think what they did is they cooled the temperature down a bit in terms of some managers that may be frustrated with how it's working. I think he said we're always open to discussing something like this with the NHL Players Association, but my sense is, while the league may have an appetite to do something, and the GMs do as well, that they're not ready to give something up in order to make this happen. Gary Bettman using the term, this is not going to be a front burner issue in discussions with the NHLPA.
Frank, you just let me know when that first spike ball game is, and I'll be on a plane immediately. I'm ready for it down there in FLA. You touched on the VGK briefly, and curious, after the Dodonov trade was voided last week, is there any change coming in how the league handles no trade lists?
Yes, the NHL, in fact, Bill Daly, the deputy commissioner, saying on Tuesday that they expect to finish off an agreement with the NHL Players Association where, starting likely this summer or with any new contract that's filed that would have a no trade clause, that there will be a central database where the league and the NHL Players Association will have equal access with central registry to have every no trade list on file, to make sure that something like the Evgeny Dadonov situation never unfolds again. And you see something like this, and it's mutually beneficial for both the NHL to have that information. It's beneficial for the NHL Players Association to make sure that they have a player that's not in that spot again. And so this is something that'll be wrapped up in relatively short order. That agreement is scheduled to be drafted and sent over to the union on Tuesday. We'll see how quickly they can sign off on it, but that is change, tangible change that's going to be coming out of what was a really wacky and interesting deadline scenario. The NHL acknowledging formally on Tuesday that they did not have Dodonov's no trade list on file, which was a big reason why Central Registry, of course, at first ended up approving that trade before it ended up getting voided.
Frank, a lot of fans ask this question a lot. The salary cap, is it going up next year?
It is a $1 million increase. That's the projection to 82.5. It was a very simple formula that the NHL has had in place going back to the pandemic when they negotiated the CBA with the NHL Players Association. Provided that the previous $4.8 billion revenue target was hit, that the salary cap would increase by $1 million. There's a series of $1 million increases that are likely to come over the next number of years, as the NHL reiterated again their projection on Tuesday that the $1 billion debt that players owe the owners is scheduled or projected to be repaid by the end of the 2024-25 season. And so if you're doing the math on that, the first year that the salary cap could actually have a meaningful increase would be the 2025-26 season. So we're a long ways off from some real free-flowing spending by NHL teams, more of a relatively flat cap. But at least for next season, the projection is that a $1 million increase will be in place, as we reported back in August.
Just quickly, when you say that year where the cap could go up, would you expect like a moderate climb in that year, or is there a chance we get like a big spike?
There's a real chance for a big spike because basically the way it works now is the salary cap is de-linked from revenue. It's always been, hey, if your revenue is X, the salary cap is going to be Y. And for these last number of years, it's basically been kept artificially low so that the players can repay the owners that $1 billion debt. And now moving forward, once you would link it back to revenue again, well, then revenue, in 2025-26 theoretically should be a lot higher than it was pre-pandemic. And so the cap will come up in accordance with that. And so you could see it go from, if the next few years are $1 million scheduled increases, which is the way the CBA is structured, that by 2025-26, if it starts at, 85 that previous season, you could see it mid-90s, potentially $100 million cap, depending on how revenue grows between now and then. And that's the hope for everyone, that the NHL increases revenue. They find some new meaningful revenue sources. By the way, we got an update today on the 2024 World Cup of Hockey. Still not giving out a lot of details, but it's going to be an 8-team tournament, it sounds like. They're not sure which federations will be participating, likely a play-in tournament that exists in August or September of 2023. They're working hard. They feel like they're behind the 8 ball a little bit on that 2024 World Cup of Hockey. So still lots of agreements to get in place, but they're well down the track on getting something like that done for 2024 and 2028. Maybe that's another revenue generator that you could help see that cap increase in a real meaningful way by 2025-26.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but they did say no Team North America, no Team Europe. It's going to be a more traditional format for that World Cup of Hockey?
Correct. Yeah, we knew that going back a few weeks that they were trying to do everything they could to not have a Team North America, Team Europe set up. It's going to be a qualifying process where you play your way into the tournament, which I think is kind of what it always should be. You shouldn't have Connor McDavid playing against Canada or Austin Matthews playing against Team USA at any point, even if they are young guys. So an 8-team tournament is what it looks like. Who knows what happens with Russia? So many things up in the air, but they're hard at work on that 2024 World Cup of Hockey.
Fantastic stuff as always, Frank, and good on you for keeping a straight face while Mike and I just look like absolute doofuses here over on the side of the screen.
I love it. It's well played, well timed, and the fact that you were able to do that and pull it off was a nice little surprise as we played through that quick 10-second bumper. So enjoy it, guys. Enjoy the outfits, enjoy the sunglasses, and I shall raise a beer for you on the beach later today.
Absolutely, Frank. This has been another edition of Icebreakers with Frank Seravalli, delivered to you by DoorDash. Promo codes DFODD, DFODDUS. Get you 25% off and no delivery fees on your first order. Frank will be back on the show Thursday. Till then, this has been another edition of Icebreakers.